Prince of Peace, Melchizedek, the one that we see. His great high priest is Melchizedek, of the Most High God, sent by the Father to bring us peace and eternal life. His blood was shed to pay for sin on that hateful day, a sacrifice for all time that shows us the way. Melchizedek, King and priest, Melchizedek, your days have never ceased. King of Salem, Prince of Peace, Melchizedek, the one that we see. Now we have a great high priest who hears our very cries. Through his flesh, the veil is open to the Father of lights. Melchizedek, King and priest, Melchizedek, your days have never ceased. King of Salem, Prince of Peace, Melchizedek, the one that we see. King of Salem, Prince of Peace, Melchizedek, the one that we We're ready to go.
You're doing the speaker and the mic.
This conference will now be recorded.
In Catholic, Protestant, and other theological persuasions, it is believed and taught that original sin starts in the Garden of Eden. They are wrong. Let's consider. Isaiah 14. Looking first at verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Verse 17. That made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. I like how the King James renders this in verse 12. How art thou fallen, O Lucifer? Lucifer, this great being that was created by God, may be the most perfect of all God's creation in intellect, beauty, and power. He didn't have a corrupt, sick, filthy society to tempt him. There was not a powerful spirit being luring him away from God. Yet he started sin. He is the creator and the originator of it. I'm going to go next to Ezekiel 28. Also beginning in verse 12. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus. Earlier it mentions in this chapter the prince of Tyrus. Now here is a different being. And say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Verse 13. Thou hast been in Eden. You know who this is talking about. The garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of the tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways. A perfect, awesome being this is, or was. From the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Here is where sin begins, where sin began. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up. Thine heart was lifted up, it says. What does this mean? What does this entail? What is this teaching us? His heart was lifted up because of his beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thy iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore I will bring forth a fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring to thee ashes upon the earth, in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more. a depiction of the originator of sin. I want to share something that goes right along with this, and it is found in Job, the 41st chapter. Now realize something here. What is the original sin? Pride. I will be greater than God. I will ascend. I will exalt. I will be this. Me. It's about me. It's all about me. Pride is a genesis for all types of sin. Keep that in mind. Job 41 begins to describe a fascinating creature. Let's see if we know what creature this is. I'm going to start in the first verse, chapter 41 of Job. Canst thou draw out Leviathan? This is Leviathan, with an hook, or his tongue with a cord, which thou lettest down? Canst thou put an hook into his nose, nor bone his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird? Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? What kind of creature is this? Lay thine hand upon him. Remember, the battle do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one can be cast down? Shall not one be cast down, even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before him, before me? Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment? Or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Wow. What is this being described? Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a pierce of the nether millstone. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. The mighty are afraid of him. By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold. The spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. Old English word there. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laughs. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He pierceth. He spreadeth sharp-pointed things upon the mitre. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. We're going to have the answer in just a moment. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. Verse 34, he beholdeth all things. He is a king over all the children of pride. This reveals who Leviathan is. Key connection. Isaiah 27 verse 1. We will go back to Isaiah. Pride, the original sin. He is the king of the children of pride. Isaiah 27:1 reads, in that day, speaking now of an end time, in that day the Lord with a sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan. Who is he? He is the piercing serpent. He was Lucifer, now he is the serpent, Satan the devil. Even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Think of the age-old legends of our times, of the history of man. What do we have in many of these? A dragon, a fierce dragon beast figure, a great, evil, powerful serpent. Make the spiritual connection. Now, think about today. Think about all we've shared at this point, what we've read together. Why are we here today? What is this about? What is the meaning of today? We are to fast. Acts 27 verse 9 refers to this day as the fast. That's in Acts 27 verse 9. So, a day, a holy day, that works itself through the ages of time, just as God intended. As we go to, or reference, Leviticus 23, 27 to 32. Verse 27, we're reminded here about afflicting our souls. Afflicting our souls. A holy convocation it is, but verses 27 through 32, as we see here, where we have a highlight of the Leviticus 27, Leviticus 23, 27 through 32, we have a highlight of this Day of Atonement. Affliction of the soul is one of the key components here. So, let's consider. The Day of Atonement, I want to share something before I go on. As I was preparing, I'm not worthy to be here, that is for sure. I came across a lot of material. I came across things that I read, things that I heard and studied. And there was one particular person, I won't mention his name right now. Maybe another time I will. But he said something about the Day of Atonement, and he said, when we are observing this day, don't just make it a theological lecture. It's so much more. And that probably resonated with me more than anything else. In other words, I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. Why are we here? What is the meaning? What is the spiritual intent? And what we know, what all of you know, I know that you know this. The holy days, this day especially, there is spiritual intent, past, present, and future. And all of us recognize this. There is a past, present, and future to this day. The spiritual intent is so profound, it is so powerful. And that's something that resonated with me probably more than anything else. It's about how we're lifted up, how we become one with Christ again, how we become restored. This is something we all should be imbibing of, these kind of thoughts during this day, during this period, this holy day. I want you to be, and I want to be, moved by Christ, at one with Christ, drawn towards Jesus Christ. Let's think again about the affliction of one soul. Where do we see this biblically? Where do we see this? Now, there are some through history. I want to make another point, and then I want to go into looking at some more scriptures. There are people that have tried to lessen the importance of this time. And there are various religious persuasions. I'm going to mention a couple names. It's okay if you don't know these names. I was studying this pretty intensely, and I came across a lot of different things, as you do too, as you do as well. There was a man by the name of Albion Foss Ballinger. He was in the 19th and 20th centuries, a theologian. He was with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and he believed, like many, the fulfillment of the Day of Atonement took place upon Christ's ascension. He references Hebrews 6:19, as do others, and he says that this is within the most holy place, and this is when he came in, after the ascension, he went to heaven to be with the Father, and then this sealed the Day of Atonement, that it's over. Jesus Christ finished it. Desmond Ford, another theologian from Australia, very similar reference to how he would describe the Day of Atonement, that it's finished. Jesus Christ resurrected. He went to the right hand of the Father. The Day of Atonement, the implications, the spiritual intent of this, it is now finished. It's over. So this comes from some Seventh-day Adventists. Interestingly, it comes from other theologians too, of other religious persuasions. But interestingly, there's another Seventh-day Adventist by the name of Dr. Samuel Bakiochi, and I know, Mike, that you have a couple of his books, I believe. Elder Mike has a few of his books. He had an interesting quote regarding this, and he was talking about actually I have his quote here. Let me share it with you. Those who see the Day of Atonement fulfilled at Calvary fail to realize what the day stands for. And I truly, truly believe that is an awesome, awesome quote, an awesome statement regarding this day, this holy day especially. I want to consider some other scriptures at this point, and then make a connection to the afflicting of one soul and being humble. I'm going to stay with Isaiah actually, Isaiah chapter 66 at this point, and I'm going to look at verses 1 and 2. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build unto me? And where is the place of my rest? For all those things hath mine hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But listen carefully to the next part here. But to this man, or to this woman, will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. What are we doing? We're afflicting our soul. We're drawing close to Jesus Christ. As mentioned in the prayer, a wonderful prayer, our high priest. Let's continue with some additional verses here. I want to turn back a little bit to Isaiah 58. Here I'm going to start at verse 3. Now this here, I'm referencing this because I want us to just realize we're not just going through the motions. We're not just about a theological lecture, although education and looking into things is important, and that has its place. but there's more to it. Spiritually speaking, what are we after? What are we after? Isaiah 58:3. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Let's understand. Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exact all your labors. Behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast, and an acceptable day to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of the wicked, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and thou cover him, that thou not hide thyself from thine own flesh. So there's a spiritual quality. We don't just go through the motions. There's a spiritual intent. We fast, yes, but let's imbibe the Holy Spirit. Let's draw closer to Jesus Christ. Now, that's a wonderful chapter. You may want to read that whole chapter later on today, perhaps, if you'd like. I'm going to move on to some other examples. I'm going to look at, let's consider this first, and I'm going to look at some other specific examples. King David. With King David, we always find incredible examples of humility, of humbling oneself, of drawing closer to God. We find examples of fasting as well, afflicting one's soul. Remember Psalm 51, that very heartfelt psalm by David. At this point, he is a broken man. He is completely broken. And he's trying to draw back to Jesus Christ, his Savior. He knows that's the only way. He realizes, I've sinned. I have messed up tremendously. I deserve death. But he's drawing back to God. He's fighting back to God. He's repentant, and spiritually, he's working back towards that. Let's go to Psalm chapter 35. That was just referencing Psalm 51. I do want to turn to Psalm 35 at this point. So Psalm 35, I went back a little bit too far there. Psalm 35, I'm going to be looking here at verse, I'll be there in just a second or so. Here we go. Psalm 35, verse 13. Let's take special note here. Verse 13. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. Listen carefully. I humbled my soul with fasting. That's what we're doing. And my prayer returned into mine own bosom. He's humbling his soul with fasting. He's drawing close to God by doing this. I'd like to go next to Psalm, maybe my favorite chapter, Psalm 119. Psalm 119 here. And I'm going to look at a couple verses here. I think verses 57 through 72 are all very good, but I'm going to try to cut to the chase a little bit and go to verse 57. So verse 57 here to start. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. Verse 61. 67. I apologize. Verse 67, but 57 to 72 are all very good to study for today especially. But verse 67, this is Psalm 119. Let's take note. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now have I kept thy word. So let's take note here. Before I was afflicted, I went astray. Afflicting one's soul, drawing back to God. Let's take special note of that. I went astray. I've got to get back on track. I've got to be at one with Jesus Christ again. I've got to humble myself because I've gone astray. I'm missing the mark now. I've got to come back. I've got to come back. Verse 71. Psalm 119, verse 71. Here, It is good for me that I have been afflicted. It is good for us today. It is good for us today. Now notice the next part of this verse. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. It is, let me start from the beginning again. It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes. O God, that I learn your way. As I was studying, and I did ask Elder Mike if I could speak today, and I'm thankful to be able to do so. But like anyone else, I'm not worthy. I am not worthy. Something else came to mind. Consider all we've read and shared up to this point. Here's something that occurred to me. Of all the holy days of God, this day is the most anti